lawyer for the Freddie Gray family, Billy Murphy, joined us to go on the record. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Greta. How are you?
I'm very well. Have you spoken to the prosecutor tonight?
No, I haven't.
What are your thoughts on the mistrial?
Mistrials happen in about 5% of the cases that are tried in the United States. It's not at all unusual for hotly contested cases to result in mistrials. And about 70% of the time when a case is tried again after a mistrial, there is conviction. And that augurs well for justice in this case.
Well, I don't know if I agree. In fact, I don't agree with that because I don't think we try in statistics. So the fact that you say it's 70%, I don't know if that's a true story or not. But I tell you, I'd be very worried if I were the prosecutor tonight, having gotten a deadlock jury, a mistrial in this case. So, you know, she's got 5 more trials to go. So I would not be sitting feeling very good about this case if I were Mosby tonight. Do you disagree with me?
Yes, I do. I think the prosecution is somewhat encouraged by the fact that there were evidently a substantial number of jurors who felt that Officer Porter should have been convicted on one or more of the charges. We don't know the breakdown, and someone will start talking sooner or later.
Well, if you've heard that information, obviously there's been a bust of the gag order because nobody's supposed to be talking, number one, so that's not a good sign. But have you heard anything about whether Prosecutor Mosby has decided to retry the case or not?
Well, what I know is that the prosecution and the defense are going to meet with Judge Williams tomorrow in his chambers, and they're going to set a new trial date, which means to me that the state's attorney is going to try this case again.
All right. Well, she may want to rethink this one out. Now, I assume, and tell me what the docket's like there, because you try cases there. There's no likelihood that this case will now be the next one up in line. They're going to go to one of the other officers, right? This will be probably put at the back of the line?
I don't really know, Greta, because both sides are prepared to try this case again immediately because they know everything. And they learned a lot during the trial, and I think the prosecution will make adjustments and the defense will make adjustments so that the next trial will be significantly different in terms of what evidence gets presented and how it gets presented.
All right. Why did the prosecution fail to meet its burden of proof to all those jurors? What was the failing, do you think?
Well, we'd have to speculate about that, and unless we were sitting there and listening to all of the evidence, it would be rank speculation.
All right. Well, you said that you heard that you were encouraged by the fact, because you represent the family in the civil case, civil settlement, you were encouraged. So do you have any idea what the split was in this jury? I mean, where do you get your level? Where do you get your quote encouragement?
I didn't say I was encouraged. I said I thought the prosecution was encouraged, and I don't talk out of school, so you'll have to speculate about the source of my information.
Okay, well, now you spoke to someone. Did you speak to any of the prosecution team today?
Yes, I did.
Okay, who did you speak to? What did the person say?
I don't talk out of school, Greta.
Well,
that's why people talk to me.
Look, come on, Billy, you've had a really cozy relationship with this prosecutor. Let's face it, you've got a huge civil settlement. I assume that I think the city council okayed it, so I assume it's justified. But so, I mean, you got a relationship, you've got information. Why not tell us?
Well, because I don't talk out of school. I think it's unprofessional for me to repeat what I've been told with attribution. That's not how it's done. That's not how I do it in any event.
But you give us a little tease. You say the prosecutor's encouraged. So so you are dangling it out there. So why is the prosecution encouraged? I mean, look, I wouldn't be encouraged if I were the prosecutor tonight and I had a deadlock jury. I tell you, that's the last thing I'd do is feel encouraged. I'd feel pretty rotten. The defense probably feels pretty good tonight.
No, I don't think that this outcome is going to have any effect whatsoever on a subsequent trial in front of a new jury, because these things happen. You know that. You were a defense lawyer for a while. I don't know if you ever prosecuted, but you have enough experience to know that jurors don't always agree, and that doesn't mean that a second juror. That doesn't mean a second jury won't agree.
Billy, I tried cases for 12 years down here in D.C. I've seen all sorts of juries, and when a prosecution gets a hung jury after the prosecution has stood up and said, we can prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt, and then it falls apart, and they walk out of the courtroom with a deadlock jury and a mistrial, that is a loss for the prosecution, and there's nobody that claims that one's a win for the prosecution.
Well, I don't think either side won or lost. I think that given that this case is going to be retried, it's going to be on a clean slate. There are going to be 12 different jurors. And you don't know any more than I do how they're going to react to this case. And
Billy,
as I said before,
Billy, come
the
on.
statistics
Billy,
that are out there... Wait a minute, Greta.
About
wait a
this
minute.
Billy,
hold on,
be honest about
Greta.
this.
Hey, Greta, I'm never going to accuse you of being dishonest, and I don't think you ought to accuse me of being dishonest. The figures are pretty clear. I did some research before this interview, and the national data suggests that about 70% of the time after a hung jury, the prosecution wins.
You know,
so
Billy,
that's
Billy,
the data.
Can I tell you, that is just, look, that's just horrible to say this thing about the statistics. Cases are tried on evidence. The prosecution said they had the evidence to go forward, that they had the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. They just got hit in the head with a deadlock verdict. They walked out of the courtroom, obviously unable to prove to this jury beyond a reasonable doubt unanimously that they had the evidence. That in no way is a win for the prosecution. And to say statistically on a retrial they're going to get a conviction, are you kidding? I mean, I don't understand how you can come out and defend that.
Those are the numbers, and you're free to do your own research and dispute me if you wish, but those are the numbers. And I didn't invent the numbers. That's what the various surveys that talk about what happens after a mistrial find. And so in some jurisdictions it's even a higher percentage, and in some jurisdictions there are less mistrials than here, and in some jurisdictions there are more. So this is an individual case. This is an individual case, and it's going to be tried in front of a fresh jury, and that jury will have its own view of the evidence and the law, and that's how it should be.
What we usually say to prosecutors after they keep trying failed cases is give it a rest. You don't have the evidence, and the community's telling you in the form of the jury. But we'll see, Billy. You know, it'll probably be retried. Maybe it'll turn out differently. I don't know, but I wouldn't feel good if I were the prosecutor tonight. But I do appreciate you coming on and joining us tonight.
Well, thank you, Greta.